Distinguished guests, welcome once again to the conference call. Our next panel, Connecting Europe and Asia, Pathways to Partnership and Prosperity, will be moderated by Mr. Davor Boban, professor at the Faculty of Political Sciences of Zagreb. Please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon and welcome to the final panel of Dubrovnik Forum 2025. There is one discussion about the anniversary of Split Declaration, but this is the last panel of this kind of this forum this year. So the topic of this panel is Connecting Europe and Asia, Pathways and Partnership and Prosperity. So we are joined by 7 distinguished panelists: Davor Božinović, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Interior of Croatia; Mihai Popșoi, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Moldova; then Maka Bociorishvili, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Georgia; Mehmet Kemal Bozai, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Director for EU Affairs, Turkey; Elnur Makhmadov, Deputy Foreign Minister of Azerbaijan; Ivana Živković, Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations; and Andrew Caruana Galizia, Head of Europe and Eurasia World Economic Forum. So, the shifting geopolitical landscape is allowing countries of the South Caucasus and Central Asia to emerge as important regional partners. These regions form a vital global gateway, and the Trans-Caspian Transport Corridor is poised to strengthen ties between Europe and Asia, unlocking new economic potential, particularly in energy trade and transport. So, 2 key issues at play here. One is geoeconomic and the other is geopolitical. So, the geoeconomic issue concerns energy security, which has historically created significant tensions between the EU and Russia. And the geopolitical issue, partly linked to the geoeconomic issue, involves territorial control and regional security. For trade and transport to flourish, peace and political stability are essential. So, this remains a significant challenge in the region, and the EU is actively engaged in addressing it through various initiatives. So, this is the final and the shortest panel, so I kindly ask all panelists if it is possible to present their ideas and thoughts 3 to 4 minutes. So then everybody will be able to speak at least once and maybe twice. So at the beginning, I'm asking Minister Božinović, who is here not only as a panelist but also a representative of the host Croatian government, but also representative of the only EU member state at this panel, to tell us something about what are the biggest problems in relations between Europe and Asia, particularly South Caucasus and Central Asia, from your point of view as Croatia and from European Union point of view? So,
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Boban. It's a great pleasure also for me to welcome you today to Dubrovnik, city that has for centuries stood at a crossroads of cultures, ideas, and interests, finding balance and openness in the face of difference. Today we are addressing a topic that reflects that same dimension on a panel that deals with one of the defining themes of the 21st century, the connection between Europe and Asia, as you just said, 2 continents that together represent nearly 70% of the world's population, 2 civilizational forces, 2 economic giants whose mutual understanding and cooperation can and must shape the future of the global order. In a time when conflict, insecurity, and geopolitical fragmentation dominate our landscape, connecting Europe and Asia is not merely a strategic necessity, it is an act of responsibility toward all of humanity. That is why we must look beyond infrastructure and speak also of the policies, values, and visions that drive this connection forward. One of the key regions in this context, as you just said, is the Caucasus, a strategically vital space between Black and Caspian Seas, geographically and symbolically bridging the East and the West. It is a region rich in resources, but historically burdened by instability. If we are to establish a new Euro-Asian framework, the Caucasus must become a bridge of cooperation, not a front line of division. The same applies, I would say, to the Middle East, whose geopolitical position from Suez to Persian Gulf remains essential for global security and resilience of supply chains. I commend existing initiatives that are already linking our continent, such as EU Global Gateway, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, and others, but what we lack is not an ambition, we lack stability. And without stability, no bridge, physical or political, can endure. That is why I must say clearly and responsibly, the precondition for meaningful Euro-Asian synergy is the de-escalation of armed conflicts, above all the war in Ukraine, but also the continuing crisis in Gaza, the recent military confrontation between Israel and Iran, and other regional flashpoints that are undermining strategic predictability. Without peace, there can be no sustainable connectivity. In this context, diplomacy remains the most powerful tool. Initiatives like Abraham Accords have shown that even in the most complex circumstances, bridges can be built not because conditions are perfect, but because courageous choices are made. We must support such efforts, expand them, and learn from them. When speaking about the future of Euro-Asian relations, we cannot overlook the role of the two most populous nations on earth, India and China. They are influencing global trade, climate policy, digital transformation, and mutual cooperation will be essential in shaping a new balance between growth and responsibility. Let us therefore try to let's say, propose a model of Euro-Asian cooperation built on the three key pillars: open trade, grounded in fair rules and resilient supply chains; environmental responsibility, acknowledging that climate change knows no borders and demands shared solutions; and if you want, maybe most important, people-to-people connectivity through education, research, and cultural exchange, which builds trust rather than dependence.
Okay, thank you. Minister Povshoy, so Moldova is not in the South Caucasus, it's not in Central Asia, but it's part of the Eastern Partnership and part of GUAM organization, Georgia, Ukraine, Armenia, and Moldova, Organization for Democracy and Economic Development, and of course it's part of the broader post-Soviet space. Russian influence has been very strong in this country since 1991. For instance, former President Voronin was seen as a pro-Russian politician. Then on the last parliamentary elections in 2021, pro-Russian bloc of communists and socialists and short political party together won 38% of seats in parliament. Now, government and president are pro-European, pro-Western or pro-EU oriented. So, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, can you tell us what is some long-term or let's say 10-year long perspective of Moldova's foreign policy? Is it will it be firmly pro-EU, pro-Western, or there are some other forces which are still very strong in Moldova's politics and would like to change this orientation to Russia again? For example, Victory Bloc recently had a Congress in Moscow because this oligarch Shaw was not in Moldova anymore and he's strongly pro-Russian.
Thank you, but before we talk about Moldova's geography, politics, and foreign policy, I would like to reinforce the message of President Sandu today in condemning the barbaric attack of the Kremlin over Lviv, Lutsk, Chernivtsi. Today, last night, was yet another horrible, horrible attack on Ukrainian civilians, our neighbors and friends, and it indicates yet again who wants peace and who doesn't. Ukraine has certainly showed its willingness to reach a sustainable, lasting peace. It's only the Kremlin that is choosing the path of war, of killing and destruction. The Republic of Moldova has stood by Ukraine. We've welcomed the largest number of refugees, and will continue to stand by our friends and neighbors and by international law. Now, when it comes to Moldova's geography, let's settle it once and for all. Moldova is a European country, full stop. The post-Soviet space is history. We've turned the page. The Republic of Moldova is firmly anchored into the European Union now that it is a candidate country. And you may be aware about half of Moldovans are full-fledged European citizens, including myself, by virtue of being citizens of Romania, of which we used to be a part of. So we're incredibly thankful for this opportunity now to be a candidate country and to be able to advance and, in fact, catch up for the 3 decades that we lost. We're incredibly thankful that we have this opportunity, and we cannot afford to lose any more time. We very much look forward to opening the first cluster in the very near future. We have just hosted the EU-Moldova Summit, first of its kind, with incredible messages of support. Just as recently, the growth plan for the Republic of Moldova was approved. Single European payment area, Moldova is a member and soon will go into force. Rome like at home programs, slow integration into the European digital area. So we are full-fledged European country, and we are working tirelessly on being a full-fledged EU member country. Now, when it comes to Moldova's internal politics, I can only remind you that there are 63% of seats in parliament that are pro-European. Perhaps if we look in some parliaments in Europe, you do not have such a majority. 63% of seats in the Moldovan parliament are firmly pro-European, and we will work tirelessly so that in the upcoming election in September, we maintain the absolute majority, because the Moldovan people have shown time and time again that they know what is best for their kids, that they know what is best for their future. And the EU referendum just passed last year. President Sandu was re-elected. This is a clear indication of the Moldovan societal resilience, despite incredible efforts by the Russian side to interfere, to detract us from our European path. But I'm firmly convinced that in 5 years, in 10 years, in how many years to come, the Moldovan society will remain firmly anchored in its values of peace, of prosperity. These are the values of the European Union. And we very much appreciate the support of EU member states, including Croatia, and we look forward to capitalize on this opportunity that we have to advance and to return to the European family of nations from where we've been ripped apart at the end of the Second World War for no fault of our own. So, just to conclude, the past 3 years have been very difficult, but we have not only muddled through, we've reached meaningful progress. And Moldova now is a front runner in terms of accession, and we appreciate the support that the international community is providing us, because Moldova's resilience is a testament to the unity and solidarity of our society, but it's also a testament to the incredible solidarity and support from the international community, for which we are incredibly thankful.
So, okay, if I may just ask some small question. What about Transnistria? Because 1,000 or 2,000 Russian soldiers are still there. Separatist region, which is still not under the control of a Moldovan government. So how Moscow, the Kremlin, will use Transnistria in its relations to Moldova?
Well, not under the control is somewhat debatable, because external economic relations of the Transnistrian region of the Republic of Moldova can only happen and do happen with the approval of the Republic of Moldova. In fact, one piece of statistics that I find quite curious, 80% of everything that is produced in the Transnistrian region of the Republic of Moldova goes to the European market. The rest of the Republic of Moldova, 70%. So the Transnistrian region of the Republic of Moldova is even more anchored onto the European market than the rest of the country. Now, we are very thankful to our partners in Brussels that they do not make it a conditionality, the resolution of the issue, of the Transnistrian issue, with accession. We know that this process has to go hand in hand, but not making it a condition gives us more space, and it doesn't provide Kremlin with veto power over our accession. The fact that Brussels and member states mention and outright stipulate that the Cyprus precedent is there, provides us more room for maneuver, and doesn't provide Kremlin with a veto power. And if you would ask folks in the Transnistrian region, especially this winter, when in the middle of winter the Kremlin turned off the gas supply to the Transnistrian region, which they can no longer do to the rest of Moldova because we have diversified the energy supply. Even some of the more pro-Russian folks on the ground, when your kids are freezing in the middle of winter and you know for a fact that it was the Kremlin that turned off the gas, you may start asking yourself uncomfortable questions. And at some point, eventually, you'll have to have a coming to Jesus moment, that the Kremlin is not exactly your friend when they are turning off the gas and are using you as leverage, and they are trying to weaponize the Transnistrian region to create instability in Moldova. We managed to overcome those challenges with the support of the European Union. We've managed to maintain common stability and peace, and we are firmly committed to doing that. And the only solution that we see to the Transnistrian issue is a peaceful solution, because if you ask the people on the ground, and even the business elites there, they want nothing more than to become law-abiding European citizens. And very few, if any, would flirt with the idea of being part of Russia, especially these days.
Okay, thank you very much. Minister Bochorishvili, Georgia is not a producer of gas or oil, but it is a very important nexus in South Caucasus for producers of oil and gas, Azerbaijan or Central Asian countries, at least in the future. So without Georgian territory, we can see on this map, there is no possible to transport Azerbaijani gas to Europe, or Azerbaijan can transport this gas via Russia or some other way. So Georgia has a very important part of this. Georgia also signed association agreement 2014 and then applied for membership in March 2022, just 1 month after start of the war in Ukraine. So, but last year we saw some kind of shift, or at least it is presented in media, from pro-EU stance to more maybe pro-Russian. Is it true or not? Is it Georgian government today more pro-Russian than it was, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago? For audience, we have to remind you that 2 regions, Abkhazia and South Ossetia, separatist states not recognized by any country in the world except Russia, Venezuela, I think Nauru and Nicaragua. So what is the future of Georgian foreign policy toward EU and toward Russia?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, it is a great honor to be here in Dubrovnik and participate in this forum. And I sincerely thank my good friend and colleague, Minister Radman, for this invitation and opportunity. Indeed, Georgia has strategic location, and this strategic location shaped our history, culture, and plays an important role in this geopolitical context. And our strategic location is becoming even more important in given geopolitical context when what is happening around us, especially after Russia's war against Ukraine. Importance of this transit route that exists via Caucasus is becoming even more important. Here I am today together with my colleagues from Azerbaijan, with Turkey. Both of them are strategic partners of Georgia. And when we talk about transit potential of this region, of course, it is extremely important to look at these countries together, and we have decades-long experience of excellent cooperation and strategic partnership that resulted in very important projects of energy connectivity, transport connectivity, and general connectivity. But this is not all. We have huge potential, and we are working on that to promote Middle Corridor and to work together with Central Asian countries and countries in the East, because that is very important for Europe, and that is very important for the region itself. Well, Georgia is a European country with a very clear European identity and very clear centuries-old, I would say, European aspirations. And we have spent centuries in protecting European values on which Europe stands today. And this is not something new. You rightly mentioned in 2014, Georgia signed association agreement, and that was not easy period of time when it happened. We all remember what was happening in the region that time. And Georgia, together with Ukraine and Moldova, well, Ukraine later, signed association agreement. And that was clear demonstration of our aspiration, what we want to do, and where we want to go. And that was actually very clear from the very beginning of our independence, early 90s, when Georgia made very clear choice of Western orientation. After 10 years of association agreement, we can say that Georgia has achieved a lot in terms of transformation, in terms of implementation of structural reforms, and the numbers will tell you a lot. If you look at Georgia, Georgia is #1. If you look at the budget partnership ranking from 2023, Georgia is #1 in open budget ranking. And if you look at the Heritage Foundation Economic Freedom Index, Georgia ranks 35 worldwide. And World Bank is ranking economic Be Ready ranking. Georgia ranks is ranked in top 3 among 50 countries. So this is a result of structural reforms that Georgian government, which is in place in Georgia, has implemented and achieved a lot in terms of transformation of the country. And after all this, we can say that, we achieved double-digit economic growth, which is also very important for our future, especially when we talk about European future of the country, because to achieve integration into the European Union, we need stable development, we need stable economic growth, and reforms that will be result of this growth. Last 4 years, we have averaged 9.7 economic growth, which is an excellent result in Europe, and we are continuing to do our best to have the same achievements in coming years. Yes, indeed, in 2022, Georgia applied for EU membership, and that was clear demonstration of our European aspiration, which is also enshrined in our constitution since 2018. But it took quite a time to get the candidate status. Unlike Ukraine and Moldova, Georgia waited 1.5 years to become candidate country of the European Union membership. It is a struggle. We are facing quite a number of challenges on this direction, but one thing is clear, that it is very difficult to separate Georgia from European architecture, from European security architecture, because we strongly believe that without Georgia, we will not achieve security and stability in Europe, and without Georgia, it will be very difficult to talk about the future of the European Union as we want to see strong and economically strong, peaceful and stable. You asked about Georgian government, whether it is pro-Russian or pro-European. I can say one thing: this government is elected by 54% of Georgian voters, and we enjoy to have that big public support, and it is simply quite insulting to tell that Georgians that they are electing pro-Russian government when 20% of Georgian territories is still under occupation, and we have 2 military bases located on our territories, and occupation still continues and still poses the major security threat to our country. But one thing is important when we talk about European direction, European future of Georgia. Of course, we need to respect what people's choice is, and this is something that is related to fight for sovereignty, fight for independence, and that is related also our fight for stability. And we have to realize and be more objective when we are assessing what is happening in Georgia, and also to look at in wider picture, in geopolitical context, and not to undermine what is happening there, and not to undermine our role, everybody's role in this situation. Government of Georgia is fighting for stability, which is essential for our future development. Government of Georgia is fighting for economic development of our country and keeping sovereignty, and that is essential. And of course, that is all very important for our future to find our place under the European umbrella within the European Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your thoughts and ideas. Mr. Mammadov, Azerbaijan regained control over its territory 2 years ago after 35 years of conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh. Turkey is a long-standing ally, and from our point of view, from the West, during this time, Nagorno-Karabakh resolution of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict 2020 to 2023, in those 3 years, it seemed that relations with Russia also improved. But one Azerbaijani friend told me, you have to live in Azerbaijan in order to understand what it looks like having Russia and Iran for neighbors. And now we are witnessing something else, severing of relations with Russia again. So from geo-economic point of view, you are in excellent position. You're a producer of gas and oil. You earn a lot of money from this production. You also, in future, a potential part of the Trans-Caspian corridor, pipeline under the Caspian Sea coming from Turkmenistan to Azerbaijan and then to the west. But what about a geopolitical position? Having in mind all these thoughts and ideas and facts.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, our host, our strategic partner, Croatia. It's my second time in this beautiful and old town, and I keep enjoying my presence here, and I might stay with the members of my delegation. If you ask this kind of question, you can expect you would give me 3 to 4 minutes to answer it. So I would need to probably break this down in bullet points in order to address those. So first, just to correct the record, you mentioned we did not regain control over Nagorno-Karabakh. Karabakh was and now is the territory of Azerbaijan as a matter of international law. So the proper term would be we liberated the territories that were occupied by Armenia, and that was confirmed by the 4 United Nations Security Council resolutions adopted in 1993. So we liberated the territories, and that belonged to Azerbaijan, and now we're in the process of rehabilitation and reintegration and reconstruction in those territories. Now, second is GUAM actually stands for Georgia, Ukraine, Azerbaijan, and Moldova, not Armenia and Moldova.
So, I'm sorry, I apologize.
So A in this case stands for Azerbaijan. But more in substance, one thing we realized in the first years of from the breakup of the Soviet Union, that we need to diversify our energy and transportation routes. So we did have the pipeline, which actually is from Baku to Novorossiysk, a town in Russia, but we realized quite early in time, in the early 90s, that we need to build alternative routes in order to be able to export the hydrocarbon resources of the Caspian Sea, in our sector of the Caspian Sea, to the European market, where there's still a high demand for those resources. And we started with Baku-Supsa through the territory of our strategic partner Georgia. Then that expanded through a new and now the largest oil pipeline that we have, and that we use for the export of crude oil to Europe, which is Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan, the Ceyhan being a port in our neighbor and ally Turkey on the Mediterranean seashore. And as a result of these projects, in 2020, we also commissioned a new pipeline, this time natural gas pipeline, which is a Southern Gas Corridor, which is a quite unique project of 3,500 kilometers of integrated pipeline spanning across the Caspian Sea, all the way to Italy. And as a result of those projects that we have implemented, now Europe has an alternative energy supply. And in 2022, when the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, when she paid a visit to Azerbaijan and signed a memorandum on strategic partnership with Azerbaijan and on the issue of energy supply and green energy, that was a time when Europe realized, following the start of war in Ukraine, that now they need a reliable alternative partner and alternative gas supplier. And as a result, we committed to supply from the current levels of around 13 billion cubic meters of natural gas, raise that number to 20 billion cubic meters of natural gas by 2027. But that, of course, requires investment on the part of the European Union as well, because you can't demand, on the one hand, in the short to mid-term, the supply of natural gas, but in the meantime, stop financing the fossil fuel projects. So our view of transition from fossil fuel to green energy is that it can't happen overnight. You need to balance this also for the energy security in the short to long term in order to be able to have a smooth and reliable transition from fossil fuel to green energy. In the meantime, the other projects that we are working on at the moment also includes the green energy cable, the cable that would go through the Black Sea, through the territory of Georgia. Now, this time connecting to Romania and Hungary, and Bulgaria has also shown an interest in joining that project. That would be about 1,100 kilometers of submarine cable, allowing us to export green energy that we will be producing in the next few years, around 4 gigawatt of energy to Europe. And that would be another alternative supply of this time green energy by Azerbaijan to Europe. So we continue to act as a pan-European energy supplier, as Kadri Simpson, the former EU Commissioner for Energy, once mentioned. The other important dimension that the Minister Bocheriashvili has already mentioned is the Middle Corridor. And as part of the Middle Corridor, we are an important linchpin in connecting the parts of Asia, China to Europe, because the Middle Corridor passes through the territory of Azerbaijan, goes from China to Kazakhstan, through the Caspian Sea to Azerbaijan, then Georgia, Turkey, and Europe. And in recent years, we have seen a tremendous increase of the traffic of goods through the Middle Corridor, also because of the war in Ukraine, because the northern route now is less reliable. It means more costs for insurance companies. It means more time in terms of delivery of goods, and the suppliers in Asia prefer to use the Middle Corridor. Now, the overall traffic throughout territory is around 14 million tons, and around 4.5 million tons comes through the Middle Corridor. And in order for us to be able to continue to be an important part of the Middle Corridor, we've started investing in infrastructures. We now have the state-of-the-art, the largest sea trade port on the Caspian Sea, with the annual capacity of 15 million tons of cargo handling that we will be increasing to 25 million tons. We have the largest Baku shipyard company that we constructed 10 years ago, and we are now able to construct our own vessels in the Caspian Sea, and we are constructing now 10 vessels as we speak. And the free trade zone in Eilat, which is a city close to the capital Baku, where we've introduced the free economic zone and the special legislation for foreign investors in order to be able to start building their businesses on the Middle Corridor. We have 9 international airports, and 3 of them were built in Karabakh just recently in the liberated areas. And these infrastructure investments been made a long time ago, as we were forecasting that the Middle Corridor would be one day the important corridor in order to connect Europe to Asia. So we'll continue with the series investments. We'll continue to work on green energy and start exporting green energy to Europe, start lifting the bottlenecks along the Middle Corridor in order to be able to process more goods. And I think from that perspective, our geographic location, being at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, is an important element of that. Now, Russia and Iran, our largest neighbors, Both countries are under sanctions, and that doesn't make our life easy, of course, in terms of economic trade, in terms of relationship. But of course, the managing this relationship so far has been stable. And in terms of where it takes us from now, they are the largest trade partners for Azerbaijan, and in terms of economics, it is expected to remain so at least in the near future. And from that perspective, I think it's important that we have stable relationship, but in the meantime, to continue to be able to conduct and navigate our independent foreign policy.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bazai, Turkey is also very important, like Georgia, for transport of energy from Caspian region to Europe. Without Turkey and without Georgia, it would be hardly possible in these circumstances. Turkey is also a regional power, like Russia. And Central Asia, the other region, is mostly Turkic region, with the exception of Tajikistan, which is a Persian group of people living there. So, can you explain us, first of all, what are Turkish interests in South Caucasus and Central Asia? And second, does Turkey see European Union on one side and Russia and China as competitors in Central Asia, or maybe some partners?
Thank you very much. I would like to start by thanking Croatian government arranging this wonderful forum and amazing hospitality. And you know, I would like to look from a more holistic approach, as the name of the forum, the title of the forum is Channeling the Change. What is the change? The change is, you know, there is a new trade paradigm, and this is how shifts in trade corridors should affect business. And here, you know, there should be a political economy should have a narrative. But we don't have this narrative now. Because in 18th century, we had it like mercantilism. In 19th century, laissez-faire. Then Keynesian approach. Then, you know, Reagan, Thatcher, and then free trade, liberal trade. But now, with the new trends, recent announcements of tariffs, trade, and industrial policies have deepened an uncertainty. Turkey is a country with its stable location, stable policies, and a strong economy, is also, as you can put on the map, is a very central, at a very central position. And when we are having all these changes, we need to have more cooperation. And when we are having all these routes, Central Asia, South Caucasia, we shouldn't be linear. Because what I see that in EU strategies, there's a linear approach. When I say linear, it's east-west, west-east. But north-south is also very important. I'm not saying Iran's Russia north-south. I'm talking about the busiest European border crossing. The busiest European border crossing is between Turkey and Bulgaria. Kapıkule and Kapitan Andreeva. And the biggest project between Turkey and EU is the modernization of the railways. And this project connects Turkey to Caucasia and also to Central Asia at one point. Here, when we are talking about Turkey, we should talk about in last 15 years, we made $100 billion investment for connectivity, railways, airports, and in this direction, Turkey is the hub of all these regions. Today, we had a global connectivity forum in Istanbul on the 25th and 26th June. What we were discussing, what will be the connection of Turkey in increasing Uzbekistan-Brasilia trade. We are thinking out of the box. And when we are talking about, if my dear colleague allows, today Azerbaijan had an agreement with Syria. And it shouldn't be linear. We should also think about from Bulgaria to go to Romania, to go to Moldova, to go to Ukraine, and also from Moldova coming some kind of communication and also energy and also trade lines. And when we are having all these, Turkey has a stake in all these issues. As also dear colleagues mentioned, Bakü Tbilisi Ceyhan is a role model. And we did it years and years ago. Another colleague of mine who was one of the architects, he's here as well. We spent a lot of time. And at that time, I can tell you, behind us, there were some kind of talks saying that, this is not a reliable, this is not possible. And today, we should think about all these routes, connecting Moldova to Syria, connecting Ukraine to Middle East. And when we talk about 3 Seas projects, there is another 3 Seas dimension, Black Sea, Marmara Sea, and Aegean, to go to Mediterranean from there. And when we are having some projects, when we are having all kind of projections, we are also thinking, connecting all these geographies. And also here, we should not, there is also another effect, Rashomon effect. It is the movie of Akira Kurosawa. 4 witnesses are telling the same story in 4 different ways. And when we are looking at the connectivity, we should look for the real aspects of them. For example, for us, when we are having a projection, we look how many times it's loaded and unloaded. And when you have some kind of embarking, if you embark on a land, you should continue with the land. And this is why Turkey has a bigger advantage than some other alternative routes. Because load, unload, it takes a lot of time and it's very expensive. And here, you should have in 4 hours, 1 passage from the border crossing. And in our standards, we are less than 4 hours in our all border crossings. And we increase the capacities. And here, when we are talking about all these things, the connection between Central Asia, as Istanbul is the biggest hub, we are having 330,000 passengers with 1,360 flights per day. And also, when you have high-tech productions, you can also use our warehouses next to the airport as main hub. And here, the connection should not be excluding any geographical region. And for example, our development route is also corridor, is an important corridor in future we can work on. And we are also calculating that as the war in Ukraine showed us, energy and food security, which are essential issues, now existential issues. When there was a problem for grain transportation, the price of wheat increased 37% in the world, and the price in the bread price in Egypt increased 1/4. So Turkey made some kind of connection in those areas, and this is our role in Central Asia, this is our role in Caucasia, in Middle East, and also Ukraine, Moldova, and as I mentioned to you, our best projects with the EU are connectivity projects. Thank you.
Thank you. The last minutes of this panel are running. So far we heard national perspectives of these problems. We have 2 representatives from international organizations, Ms. Živković and Mr. Galizia. So please, can you shortly, because we don't have, I'm sorry, so much time, and I heard that one delegation must run to the airport. Can you present us from a point of view of your organizations, what are the biggest geopolitical or geoeconomic problems related to these 2 regions, and including, for example, parts of Eastern Europe like Moldova? Ms. Živković.
Should I start? Okay. Well, I was first of all, thank you to the organizers for yet another great edition of Dubrovnik Forum. I'm happy to be back from this perspective as well. But to your question, I would like to take it from the perspective of United Nations Development Program and the work that we do in all of these countries. And building on our long-standing engagement in Europe and also Central Asia, which is supporting inclusive economic development, better policies, and better governance, we see that this reconfiguration of trade routes will be an opportunity to build resilience for the countries and also to advance development in many different ways. We look at it from the point of impact of communities, on communities. And in addition to building the large-scale energy and also transport infrastructure, we like to concentrate on building the soft connectivity, which is also or just as important. Here we see trade facilitation, regional economic integration, and strengthening private sector capabilities to be able to better engage in regional and global value chains. Those are also prerequisites of success. We see that a lot of countries that we talked about today are experiencing or are performing very well economically with a significant economic growth, which also will open new investment opportunities, and hereby we are happy to support the improvement of overall investment climate in all of these countries. In Central Asia, for example, the intra-regional trade accounts for only 5 to 7% of total trade, and here we see also the potential of the Middle Corridor to improve this situation and to for the countries to build better connections among themselves before they will become competitive in the wider market. We proudly supported countries on their WTO accession, also harmonization of customs procedures and even modernization of border crossings. Doing this, we also were supporting the building of digital capacities of different countries, which can improve then later and other processes and other policy and reform improvements. In addition to that, we believe that standard certification, phytosanitary measures are also key for local products to be able to compete in international markets. And therefore, the people who benefit from trade are much wider. A wider group of people can benefit from the trade. We have a very good examples of supporting small and medium enterprises. For example, in Central Asia, we have this Aid for Trade project that is supported by Finland, where we support businesses, including women-led businesses, to meet standards and enter regional and global supply chains. And in addition to that, we're also developing these Made in Central Asia brands for products that can reduce technical barriers further on, by fostering linkages among countries in food processing, but also in tourism, the region can move beyond trading the raw materials and also producing co-producing higher value goods. With this new trade corridors or middle corridor, we see it as a driving force also for green and inclusive growth. And alignment to international environmental regulations is very important, such as EU CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, as these countries are amongst the most carbon intensive globally. And here I also want to mention the NDCs. Today, the Foreign Minister of Brazil was talking about COP30 and commitments to Paris Agreement of all countries to every 5 years to renew their commitments on how to do climate adaptation, but also how to improve renewable energy frameworks. And UNDP proudly supports many countries on that path. And we feel this, this corridor is also very, very much linked to the work that we cover in the nationally determined contributions.
Thank you. And Mr. Galizia, you are the last one, so.
Thank you so much. Thanks very much to the Croatian government. It's my second time back here. It's always a pleasure. Thanks to you, Professor Davor, for warning me there won't be time for a long speech. So I didn't. Sorry. That saved me some time of preparation as well. There have been lots of references to Hollywood movies today. Groundhog Day, Back to the Future, in the context of the Western Balkans. And that clock reminds me of Mission Impossible. except someone just added a minute. So I have two main messages. The first is related to connectivity infrastructure. So the window of opportunity will not be open forever. There is one main reason that the Middle Corridor is something that has become a household term in Europe and the region, and it's because the Northern Corridor has become problematic. But I hope and pray that one day there will be peace between Ukraine and Russia, and then the window for the Middle Corridor will close unless the connectivity infrastructure improves. Right now, what we see is strong investor interest in the region in these infrastructure projects. But that interest has yet to translate into investment at scale. There is still significant uncertainty, and that's largely driven by what my colleague Ivana mentioned, which is the weak intra-regional trade, which comes from weak intra-regional regulatory harmonization, which is extremely challenging. It's something that the European Union is still trying to address for itself. But in Central Asia and the South Caucasus, the starting point is obviously much lower. So that's number one, that the clock is ticking on connectivity infrastructure if the Middle Corridor is to be viable and if it is to compete with the Northern Corridor today, but especially tomorrow, when the geopolitical uncertainty will hopefully dissipate. My second main message is that transit routes don't remain important forever. If we look at Venice, Dubrovnik, my own ancestral town, Valletta, these are cities that are beautiful today because they stopped being hubs at a certain point centuries ago. And so it's important for countries in the region to invest in themselves as well, to link transit with transformation. The transit is a fickle area to invest in. It depends on trade between Europe and China, which fluctuates. There are alternatives, as I mentioned. So it's extremely important to develop homegrown competitiveness as well, not just as a transit route. The World Economic Forum does work along similar lines. So we have partnerships in the region that have created centers focused on frontier technologies, on skills. We have a partnership with UNDP on one, not exactly in the region, but close by. Working on these two in parallel and at speed is absolutely essential for the region to transform economically, to become competitive, and to be better integrated into the global economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Božinović, 80% of Croatian oil import is coming from Azerbaijan through Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. So you opened this discussion. Can you close it with final remarks?
Yes, first of all, thank you. I would like to say that we had a great pleasure to listening this really informative discussions, and I would like to thank all of participants for that. And if you allow me, since the most of our dear guests, of course, representatives of the countries had a clear emphasis of their national positions. I would just mention one of the issues which is of great importance for my country and the institution that I led. It's a issue of migration. Migration is, I would like to say, inevitable part of this Euro-Asia equation. Because the large share of both legal and illegal migration to our country originates from Asia, and this is why we really try and we would like to see de-escalation of the situation, because it was my first and last message, Without this, I'm not sure that we could bridge we could build our bridges in a way that really serve to all of us. But it will be discussions on that ground in the future. Let me re-emphasize that I'm really grateful to all of you for your very valuable contribution to our forum and, of course, our panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you, distinguished panelists. I'm grateful that we had this opportunity to hear your ideas, interests, and thoughts, not only sometimes called Western-centric thoughts. So unfortunately, our panel was 45 minutes, not hour and a half, but at least I'm grateful for this small opportunity to hear all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the panel participants. Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our final panel in approximately 5 minutes. Please stay with us. We look forward to seeing you shortly. Thank you.